Welcome to the Gaudium et Spes podcast, where every other week we bring you Catholic teachings and stories of faith from people throughout the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. Now, here are your hosts, Suzanne McNinch and Ches Filippini.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Gaudium et Spes podcast. Guys, this is going to be a great episode. We're on part 2 of Bishop Wack's teaching series on the Congregation of Holy Cross, which is where he came from. The first episode talked about the congregation itself, how they were established, and the locations that they have. And this time we're going to dig a little bit deeper into Bishop Wack's actual career, or should I say calling, within the congregation. So I think it'll be a great episode. I know, right?
I had a request recently. Somebody was like, could you put on the diocesan page the history of like our priest assignments and stuff? I'm like, thanks for the request. We don't have enough space, and priests don't generally do that. But our bishop's going to, he's going to tell you everything he's ever did. And
absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
Yes, it is.
We're blessed.
Yes.
Suzanne, it's great to be back in the studio with you.
It is.
There's a lot of life going on. We'll start out with our quote from Gaudium et Spes, paragraph 1, which goes, "The joys, the hopes, the griefs, and anxieties of the men of this age, especially those who are poor and in any way afflicted. These are the joys, the hopes, the griefs, and anxieties of the followers of Christ." What's up? What we got going on? By the way, guys, we recorded the best pre-podcast ever in the history of the world on the SEC football situation, Billy Napier, all the things. But alas, there's other things going on.
There are other things. And I just want to say, Ches, thanks be to God. I mean, my goodness, it came to me at Mass yesterday, thinking that we're going to be recording today and what should we talk about? And I just have to say, thank you, Lord, for everything. I mean, I've had a lot of friends and family that have gone through some medical procedures recently and or awaiting test results, and some positive, some not so positive. But, you got to look at it as a positive thing regardless, because sometimes it's better to have a diagnosis than not have one whatsoever. And that way now you can march forward and know what you need to do and get well and, pray and all that other kind of good stuff. But yeah, we've just had so many incredible things going on in our lives and in the diocesan life. I mean, we had a beautiful farewell for Sister Margaret. Yeah. It was hard to see her go. I know you worked very closely with her for so many years. Yeah, we would say goodbye to her. It'll be, I guess, about a week and a half ago when this podcast releases. And the moment that it was after 9 years, it was like, definitely got choked up and realizing, we worked closely together. When you work closely with someone, anybody, there are some moments of tension stuff, but it's at the end, like how all those fade away and all you can kind of the same thing. Like I was just so thankful for having worked with her. And we spent a lot of time, especially in our collaboration on Lay Formation Institute, in the car together, traveling places, setting up just together, running workshops together. And I sent her a thank you. I just said, thank you for these 3 things specifically about who you are, how you ministered, what you taught me. So yeah, we're just, 39 years in one place is not normal in any field. No,
anywhere
correct.
Anymore, let alone stay in the same profession, but just in the same place too. So just a beautiful farewell. Speaking of farewells, Sister, she's back up in the mother house up in Connecticut right now. Another farewell that was pretty much a joy and a grief at the same time was we said farewell to Monsignor Slade Crawford, who passed away on October 17th at the age of 87. A lot of the folks who are on the western side of our diocese are a little familiar with him. He was pastor at Little Flower from 1993 to 2000, but he is very, 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 very well known on the east side of our diocese, especially. He was rector of the Co-Cathedral from 2000 to 2003, and then also the pastor of Immaculate Conception in Perry, almost our farthest eastern parish. But more than anything, what he'll be known for, I think, forever in our diocese, he was the director of vocations from 1997 to 2010 and formed so many men, both who became priests and also those who discerned out, but
absolutely
was a spiritual father unlike very many people I've ever met. I only met him a few times. he was an instantly impactful human being.
Yeah.
The moment, the kind of, like, if there was one thing you were born to do, it is to be a priest.
Wow.
And Father Michael Nixon during his homily highlighted that so beautifully at the Mass this past Friday, October 23rd. And just that this man kind of embodied, when we say the word Father to our priests, when they embody that with every ounce of their being, it's transformational. It's just unlike anything else. More than any word they could say, any kind of, whatever, how well they administer their parish. When they are fathers to people, it's like, this is it. This is why Jesus instituted the priesthood, is to shepherd us in a unique way. So Monsignor Crawford, it was a joyful occasion, hundreds and hundreds of people there. Very little sadness, very few tears, because I think everyone there knew, like, okay, maybe if there's a one-way ticket to heaven,
yes,
Monsignor didn't earn it. Everything is a gift, which he would have told you if he was here. But my goodness, he was a disciple of the Lord. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks be to God indeed.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, it's time, guys. We're going to hand it over to Bishop. It's going to be an autobiographical moment. Enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hello. In the previous episode, I talked about Holy Cross, the Congregation of Holy Cross, kind of the charism, the history of it and everything. In this one, I want to be more specific and talk about my experience in ministry in Holy Cross. Now, I came to Holy Cross as a freshman in college. I'm not going to talk about my time in the seminary, though that was really great. I was there for 4 years. Then I went to the novitiate, which was a year of prayer and study. Not really study, but mostly prayer and contemplation for a year in Colorado, and then back to Notre Dame for 3 more years of theology. That's where I wanted to start talking about just my 4 assignments in Holy Cross before I came here as the bishop of the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee. Let me say first this. I'm not just saying this, I have really loved all of my assignments. I'll call them assignments or ministry placements. I really have. Each one, while I was doing it, I thought, this is the best. And then, God called me to something else. I thought, this one is the best. Now, clearly, what I'm doing now is the best, and there is nothing higher than that. So we'll go with that. But in Holy Cross, so I had 4 very different ministry placements, different assignments. I came to Holy Cross with a desire to do whatever was needed, or to use my gifts for the good, for the building up of the church. Now, in my mind, that meant 2 things. 1, I would go to a parish because that's what I experienced. And 2, I would go to the missions. That was my dream, is to go off to Africa or Bangladesh. Did not do those, but I went to parishes. But so I came really basically just saying whatever you think, my superiors and God, whatever you think is best. One of my spiritual directors when I was in the seminary told me this. He gave me this advice, and it was really helpful. He said, don't ever ask for an assignment. Let it be given to you by your superiors. So don't, because there are some people, I think, even in religious life and the diocesan priesthood, who kind of have their whole life mapped out. I'd really like to do this for a couple of years, then I want to go over here, then here, then here. And that may work for them, but it just seems like what we need in the church is what God has asked of our ancestors, the patriarchs and the prophets and the holy people in the scriptures, to go where I send you. To Abraham, he just said, just go. And Abraham basically said, where? Don't worry about it. Just go. And I will make of you a great nation. It's the same Jesus calling the disciples. He just said, come, follow me. And then before he ascended into heaven, he said, go and teach all nations. He didn't say go where or how, just go. Okay, so, and also, this is interesting. Here in the diocese, I was made aware that many people have learned from one of our more experienced priests a similar quote. Remember, the one I heard from my spiritual director was, don't ever ask for a certain assignment. Here in the diocese, people quote this more experienced priest, and apparently he said, don't ask for an assignment and don't turn one down when it's asked of you, which again is great advice. We don't seek it out, and if it's given, we don't say no. I like that a lot. There's so much freedom in the vow or the promise of obedience. It takes a lot of the guesswork out of it. I can say confidently that I'm doing the will of my superiors, and thus I believe in a sense I'm doing the will of God. And if it's a mistake, it's not on me. I'm not saying if I make mistakes, but if going there is a mistake, it's not on me. It's on the superiors. It's on the bishop or my religious superiors. The pressure is off if I do what is asked of me. So I think that's funny because most people think the vow of obedience is the opposite. It kind of controls you. It limits what you can do. It takes away your freedom. But we look at it the other way. It actually frees me up to doing God's will according to how it is given to me by my superiors. And so as I was thinking about my 4 assignments in Holy Cross and then this one, I thought it's kind of interesting that there's been a series of a sort of progression in my assignments in terms of the time that I was at a particular place. The first placement, I served there for 4 years, the second for 5 years, the third for 6.5, the fourth for 8 years, and now here at the best assignment, if you will. I've been here more than 8 years, and hopefully this is my last. So we'll see what happens, what the Holy Spirit wants of any of us. I should say that all these things, that as I did say, of course, that I'll take whatever, I won't ask anything, and I'll take whatever comes to me. There is more nuance to obedience than that. It's not just that I kind of show up one day and they say, all right, here's your assignment. And it comes out of the blue. A lot of times there's a conversation. When I was in Holy Cross, it was me and my superiors, my provincial and the spiritual director. My spiritual director, we would just talk about, my charisms, my talents, and the needs of the community and the church at the time. And you try to match that up. What is best for the person? What is best for the parish? What is best for the congregation or the diocese? Although sometimes, and I'm finding this as bishop, it does come down to an act of obedience. The person may not be thinking about going to this place. They may not have asked for it, but the church needs them to do that. And so I would ask them to do that. And again, I think I've talked about this before. It is humbling that all of the priests here in this diocese have said, yes, of course I will do that, even if it's not something they were thinking about. All right, so these are my 4 placements, and it was fun to kind of think back on them and on what I learned from them. The first one was to go to Colorado Springs to a parish that really has 3 churches. It's one parish, Sacred Heart, but it has another parish up a little bit in the mountains, Our Lady Perpetual Help, and then an even smaller little chapel higher up in the mountains, Holy Rosary. So it was really awesome to have 3 different experiences of a parish or parish life. Even though it was all one parish, I got to experience those 3 churches. Sacred Heart is down in the Springs, and that's pretty large. And then Our Lady Perpetual Help was a little smaller, and then Holy Rosary smaller still. I was there right after I left. I graduated from the seminary, graduated after I left the seminary, I guess, and graduated from grad school. So I was there for 3 months as a seminarian, just kind of learning a little bit about the place and trying to find my way around those 3 chapels in that area. And then in August, I was ordained a deacon. I took final vows in Holy Cross and then was ordained a deacon. So I was there for 6 months as a deacon, which was great because then I got to do some things, but not everything. I would preach. I celebrated baptisms and a few weddings. Boy, I remember that was the time when all those things were new to me. I was so nervous about each thing. And yet they walked me through, they helped me to do it, especially the pastor. And then after those 6 months as a deacon, I was ordained a priest, and I stayed for 3 more years there in Colorado Springs. It is very special because that's where I started my full-time ministry. And as I said, it was really neat to have those experiences in 3 different churches, especially presiding and preaching. I didn't think about it, but looking back, they were very formative. Sacred Heart was a medium to large parish. And then Our Lady Perpetual Help was just a really beautiful little chapel in Manitou Springs. It's kind of a touristy area. A lot of people on the way up to Pikes Peak will stop there. And a few parishioners, but a lot of tourists. And it was just really neat because maybe there were 80 people in the church, well, maybe 100 or so. And then you go higher up the mountain, and Holy Rosary was smaller still, just a very quaint, small little chapel there. again, tourists, but mostly people who lived up there in the mountains. And maybe 50 to 80 people were there. So it was really neat. Even the same homily, but you could take the same homily to all three places, but you'd have three different experiences. What I also liked about this is that I learned all aspects of the parish life. The pastor took me under his wing. Well, that was his job, is to really mentor me. And so he had me experience the finance council and the pastoral council, and to help out in other parts of the diocese as well, where possible, maybe with confessions at a neighboring parish, just so I could see other parts of the ministry. And then when it came to weddings and funerals and baptisms, early on, he walked me through each of those liturgies and rituals, and kind of just gave me certain ideas and really some things that I still do today. I think about Father Jim and all the things that he taught me, and I'm really grateful to him. And also another thing that was key in that first assignment was learning how to preach. Boy, I was not good. And maybe some of you are saying, well, you're not good now. I don't know. But anyway, I was not good. And I was nervous, and I had a text, and I was shaking, and I would hold on to the text, and read from that. And but I was getting a little bit better. They were giving me feedback. And it wasn't always just, oh, Father Bill, your homilies are so great. They challenged me, which was really good and important. And then, I don't know, it was after Mass, but a group of parishioners just said, we like your homilies a lot, and we see you're up there, you're reading them. What if you came down like the other priests and just talked to us without the text? And I said, oh, that'll never happen. And they said, well, we'd like you to try that. And so I didn't for a while. But a couple months later, I thought, you know what, they're right. Maybe I should just do that. Well, I took my text and I put it on index cards, and I went down to the middle of into the aisle, basically in front of the church, and was still clinging on, shaking a little bit as I read from those index cards. But little by little, I learned to let go of those. And I'm not saying you have to do that. Some priests read from a text every Sunday, every weekend, and they are fantastic, and they should keep doing that. For me, it works to write down what I'm going to say, then to memorize it, and then just to speak from my heart there, basically, and my mind, what I've memorized. So I learned that there in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs was also really neat, too. It's a great place to hike. I learned how to ski on my day off, and the mountains are so beautiful. So that was a great place. I really enjoyed that, being in Colorado Springs. But it came time to go to a new assignment, and my provincial called me and asked me to work in the vocations office at Notre Dame and to live on campus in a dorm and work in campus ministry. This is an important ministry, obviously, for the congregation and for the church, to help young men, especially, to discern whether God is calling them to be a priest or a brother in Holy Cross. And so I worked mostly with high school students and college students. There was someone else who worked in that office. He worked with the graduate students and folks who were older. But because of that, I went to a lot of high schools and other schools around the country, colleges, giving talks, celebrating masses, talking to young men who were discerning being a priest or a brother. And I kept up correspondence with them. I was the point of contact when they'd come to visit campus, lined up their official visits when they came to interview and everything, and put on events on campus as well. I had come and see discernment events on campus, or what else did I do? I went around to all the dorms, and I would celebrate masses there, especially in the men's dorms, because Notre Dame has half of them are men's dorms, half of them are women's dorms. Each one has a mass every night, every Sunday, every night, most of them, and I would try to go mostly to the men's dorms and help out there just to talk to the young men. But I celebrated mass at the women's dorms as well. Very rewarding, and at the same time, and it was connected to that, they wanted me to live in a men's dorm, so I did that. I lived in a dormitory on campus, which again put me in contact with a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of students. So I participated in campus life, as much as I could, went to a lot of the football games and things like that, and celebrated masses every day in the dorm there and in other dorms. So that was really neat. And while I was there, I worked in campus ministry, so I could help with a lot of retreats. I was in charge of the freshman retreat program. And it was a good way to get to know students and just be visible. So very, very different. Living in a dorm was very different from living in the rectory in Colorado Springs. It's just, it's a little louder. especially in a men's dorm like that. I guess they're great kids, but they like to talk, and they were loud. So, and they would like to talk late at night. They would come to my room to talk at midnight when I'm just going to bed. And I learned how to go to bed at 1 o'clock on the weekdays and 2 or 3 on the weekends, but that's what you do. But I loved it, and I was grateful also to be close to my parents and my siblings who live in the South Bend area. That was really neat to be assigned at a place close to my family, something that I haven't experienced since then and probably won't again, but that was really, really neat to be with them. Okay, so my time ended there after 5 years, and the provincial called me again. This was a different provincial, and asked me to go to Phoenix to work at Andre House, a soup kitchen and house of hospitality. I had worked there as one of my summer placements in the seminary, and I made it known, if you need a director, I would love to go there one day. And so he called and he said, "Are you serious?" Because it's not the easiest placement, I think, and it's not something that a lot of our priests and brothers in our community are jumping up to do. But he said, "Are you serious about going there?" And I said, "Oh, I would love to do that. Yes, please." And he said, "Okay, I am assigning you as the director of Andre House for 3 years," which was renewed for 3 more later. And I said, I remember saying, "Father Bill, you have made me a very happy man. Yes, I'll do it." And he thought I was a little off, I think. I'm not sure. I think he was bracing himself for, having to say, "Well, I know it's tough, but you have to go." And here I am saying, "Yes, please send me." Wow, talk about a different kind of experience. I know I've talked about Andre House before on this podcast, but it was very different, different from the parish, different from campus ministry and work in the vocations office. It was hands-on corporal works of mercy type of work, feeding the poor, clothing the naked, etc., etc. All of those, we did all of that every day, all day. I lived and worked in a very challenging part of Phoenix, and but I loved it. And at first I knew that I was going down there to really help to run this place, to keep people alive in a sense, to keep feeding them, keep clothing them, keep providing shelter and shade and water and ice and bathrooms and showers and laundry for them every day. And that's what we did. But I quickly realized, of course, that we were there to serve the Lord. As Pope Francis says, it's really all about an encountering people. And that's what we did every day. There, we're just privileged to do it in a very dramatic way, in a very direct way. There's not a lot of email or meetings or things like that there. It's just every day, there's an emergency, someone's hurt, someone's dying, someone's been in a fight, people are hungry, people need clothing, they're all this stuff. And so you're just there to assist people, to really serve Christ in them every single day. And another thing about that is the director, which is that was my capacity. The director also is the director of the volunteers. And every year we had about 8 or 10 young people right out of college usually who lived together and would serve with me they would serve the poor and the homeless there. And I kind of supervised them. I was their formator in a sense. I gathered them together. We met every day, and that was really neat as well. I took my experience from campus ministry and being on campus at Notre Dame to bear in that ministry as well. So that was really fascinating. Loved it. Matthew 25, that comes right out of Matthew 25. Jesus said, "I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me drink." It was a privilege to do that every day. It was also very difficult work, and I don't mean to sugarcoat it. It was challenging and dramatic and sometimes violent and even downright dangerous. And I suppose in a sense, I kind of liked that. I thought when I was really little that maybe I would be a firefighter or a police officer. And this was probably as close as I'll get to that, but I shouldn't say I enjoyed that, because some of the things we dealt with were very tragic and very difficult. But it was very fulfilling, I guess, for me to be a part of that and to be in the midst of that wonderful environment. So I served there for what did I say there? I think I served there for almost 7 years, 6.5 years. And then the provincial called and said, we have someone else who we want to put there to be the director. And the timing doesn't work out quite right, so we want you to stay for a little bit longer, but then we're going to give you a couple months as a sabbatical. And so I said, oh, gee, a couple months? That sounds great. So that's what they did. They gave me that. And so after I left Andre House, which, again, I should say this, it's so hard to move from one place to another. You know this from if you've moved. We have a lot of military folks here. I know how hard that can be to move, pick up, and just go to a new community. Same thing with us, religious and priests, and lay people as well. When you move to a new place, a new job or something, but it's so hard to leave. One other thing I did at Andre House, and this was important for the ministry and for me. On the weekends, I would go to the parishes in the surrounding area in that Diocese of Phoenix, and I would assist with masses by celebrating masses. I went to one place every weekend, every Sunday and Saturday night, and then I went also to other places, just filled in everywhere. And so I got to know one community up in Fountain Hills really well, and then the other ones, again, I was there pretty regularly in some places, and one of them was in Spanish. My Spanish was horrible, but that was important for me to learn. That was key to me connecting as a priest still, and celebrating the sacraments, but also to asking for donations. I would go to those parishes. A lot of them were in Scottsdale or Fountain Hills or Mesa, and I would ask them, and they knew it. That's why I was coming for assistance. Sometimes I'd do a blanket drive on a Sunday or a turkey drive or something like that. Or sometimes I would ask for money, and they were very, very generous. I love that it's the church serving the poor and the homeless and the needy. A lot of the people up there in those places said, I'm sorry, Father Bill, I can't go down there. It's dangerous. But I love that you're there, and I'll help fund it, and I'll give you all that you need. But and I said, that's fine. You're serving right alongside me. You're supporting me, and therefore you're part of the ministry. So I was there, as I said, for 6.5 years, and then I got to go on a little sabbatical. But they said you can't just go, rest and go on cruises or something. I was still religious. I didn't have any money, of course. So they said we'd like it we'd like you to go on a retreat and then go do something with education. So I asked if I could go on a 30-day silent retreat. I know it's hard to imagine that I was silent for 30 days, but I was. I went to Grand Coteau, Louisiana, and did an Ignatian retreat, 30-day retreat, also called the Spiritual Exercises. And it was really good. It was just perfect, I think, coming off of those 6.5 years of challenging and thrilling work at Andre House. So I did that long retreat. And then right after that, I went to Monterrey, Mexico for a month of Spanish immersion. I lived with a family there, and then I took about 4 to 5 or 6 hours of Spanish classes or conversations every day. And then after that, I just went back for a couple of weeks and lived at the seminary there and just kind of got to know people there and on campus at Notre Dame again. And after that, well, actually before that, I knew where I was going. They asked me to go to Austin, Texas, to be the pastor of St. Ignatius Martyr Parish. I didn't really know a lot about the parish. I think I'd visited there once when I was in formation. But of course, I said yes, and I was very excited to be a pastor. And then that, I like to say, was like drinking from the fire hose. That I just kind of jumped in. That was an extremely active parish with 70 ministries, a school, English, Spanish, and a American Sign Language speaking community, where they had communities that had different languages, different needs. It was a large parish. And there I was, just plopped down in the middle of it. And I told you I studied Spanish, but it wasn't really that good. And the pastor said, okay, here are the keys. It's all yours. I'm leaving this week. And by the way, on Saturday, you have a wedding in Spanish, a quinceañera in Spanish, and you have the Mass, of course, in Spanish on Sunday. Wow, that was Monday. So I just spent that whole week just writing word for word up my homilies and everything, and just kind of, again, I was, kind of nervous, clutching the the paper, but I did it, and I did that for 8 years. The Mass in Spanish every Sunday, and confessions and quinceañeras and weddings and funerals and all that. So that's how it got to be good where it is. I loved that parish. I loved just being there with my fellow. There were a couple of other young priests and deacons who worked with me, a retired priest as well. We had some Holy Cross sisters, so it was really neat to work in conjunction with them. And of course, all the lay people on staff. I learned a lot there, and I learned a lot on the job. Now, this is an interesting thing. I told you about what I learned in Colorado Springs about preaching. The community, the congregation asked me to step away from the pulpit and just preach with either index cards or nothing, which was what I do now. They did the same thing at St. Ignatius Martyr Parish in Austin, but this time it was the Spanish-speaking community. They said, "We noticed that in English, you don't use notes, but in Spanish, you read word for word. We would like you to come down and talk to us from your heart." And I said, "Oh, that is never going to happen, not in another language." They said, "Well, anyway, we challenge you to do that." And for some reason, I'm like, okay, I guess I have to do that. And so I remember, same thing, writing on index cards, and I would look at the card and look down and say a few words. And but over time, and I can't believe I can do this today, but I do the same thing. I don't use notes. I'll memorize it in English and in Spanish, and then I'll give those homilies just standing there. Again, I'm not saying that that's what everyone should do. Some people read every week, and that's fantastic. But that's worked for me, and it came from the community, so I really like that. I also learned a lot about governance, of course, how to run a parish, a large parish in a school. And the bishop there started to ask me. I had no idea what was happening, but I guess he was kind of setting me up for what I'm doing now, secretly, by asking me to be involved in the diocese. He asked me to be on the school board, the diocesan school board. Okay, sure. Then he asked me to be on the presbyteral council for the diocese. Then he asked me to be the chair of the presbyteral council. And I said, "I'm a religious order priest. I shouldn't be doing this." He said, "Yes, Bill." And then one time he said, "This is a good step for you, Bill." And I said, "Bishop, I'm not taking steps." And he said, "Well, whatever." And then he asked me to be the dean of the largest deanery there in the diocese. And then all of a sudden, other people in other dioceses in Texas started to ask me, other bishops asked me to give talks in their diocese. Didn't know what was going on, but now I know. I was on a secret list there in Texas, no doubt. And the other bishops were kind of vetting me, trying to see if I would be a good candidate to be a bishop so they could recommend me. And that's what happened. So that was really neat to be involved in the diocese as well. And so after those 8 years, I've told this story a lot, and I'm not going to tell it again, but there on that fateful Saturday in May in 2017, I got that phone call that wasn't from my provincial this time, but it was from the Apostolic Nuncio, the ambassador to the United States from the Vatican, who told me, "We have a new assignment for you." And that's why I said, "Wait, what about my provincial or my superior general in Rome?" And he said, "We have a higher authority than those men." So now I got a new assignment. It didn't come from the provincial, but from the Pope, in essence, from Pope Francis, to come here. I've been here for a little over 8 years now, and I believe this month this will be then the longest I have been anywhere, which is really neat. It's nice to be able to say that, and I hope it's, like I said, the longest I will be anywhere. Just like each assignment before, this ministry is challenging and exciting and difficult and thrilling and humbling and enjoyable and very, very rewarding. It is a tremendous blessing to be a priest and now a bishop. Again, who knows what the future holds for any of us, but I think just having said yes over a series of time to God and to my superiors, I've learned a lot, I've grown a lot, and I'm just so grateful to God and to God's people for where I am. If we are attentive to the Holy Spirit, and if we open ourselves up to seeking God's will above all, I really do believe that all will be well. In the prophetic books, especially Jeremiah and Isaiah, God says to them, Who shall I send? Who can go to my people in my name? And the prophets say, Here I am, Lord, send me. This is what underlies the vow or the promise of obedience. And I'm grateful to God that each obedience I've received, each placement, each ministry site, each ministry placement and assignment has been rewarding and blessing. And I hope that I have done well in each one. So thank you for listening. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the Diocese of Pensacola-Tallahassee.
Hello and welcome back. Wow, it was really, really insightful to find out a little bit more about Bishop Wack and his career. He just answered the call whenever the call was given to him. I mean, he listened for the Holy Spirit, just like he teaches us to do all the time. And, I loved how he says, don't ask for an assignment and don't turn one down when asked.
Yeah.
So, it was interesting because I was listening to him and I didn't realize there were so many parallels between what he's done in my career in the military and different things like that. And so, but I think that, every assignment that he's had just kind of allowed him to grow and build upon and has kind of made him the bishop and the man that he is today.
Yeah. That's what I was struck by. I think his revelation about using index cards in Colorado Springs was like, wait, you? Yeah. Bishop is so well known for being just an incredible conversationalist, stand-up comedian, great homilist, just... this man doesn't need index cards.
No.
But it's like, well, maybe he did at some point in time. And the work that he's put into it, I think you see that throughout. Learning Spanish. I was in dialogue with folks recently about the immigration letter he released. And kind of some people were like, well, is it a bishop's place to talk about political matters? Like, y'all, Bishop is speaking as a pastor. He knows Spanish because he put the work. He didn't grow up speaking Spanish in South Bend, Indiana. He wasn't forced to at any point in time. His desire was, I want to minister to the people that I'm put with in a better way. And the fact that he's been so impactful in our diocese with his bilingual skills is not an accident. He just loves what he does, and he puts the work in to do it. So I was so appreciative that the vulnerability of I wasn't the finished article,
Right, exactly. Well, and I think too, the fact that, he's has abundant energy. And that's been evident in every one of the assignments that he's had. Yeah. He hasn't just been the director of Andre House. Yeah. He oversaw all of the volunteers. Plus he went to parishes, and would say mass and do things like that. So, he's constantly on the go, 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 go. And I still look at him in awe today with the amount of energy that he has. And, the fact that he can't sit still. He just loves giving, doing, being out there. And it's just incredible. Yeah.
The volunteers, especially Andre House, he's told so many stories about his experience there, which are beautiful. But what he doesn't really talk about that much is his job was to service hundreds of people with food, and he wasn't just working with his case staff that we know the routine. Right, it's fresh faces all the time, local corporate folks from Phoenix who are all right, you've never picked up a knife before. Guess what? Yep. You're chopping vegetables today or something like that, and that's an logistically, that's just very hard to execute.
Oh, yes. For sure.
So, what a guy.
But I feel very fortunate that we have now had him in his longest position ever. Crazy. So, and let's just keep praying that he gets to stay here a little bit longer.
Ad multisanus with us. Yeah, it feels like it's gone like that, honestly.
I know.
No day with him feels like a drudgery. We're like, okay, man, what's going to move on? We're all desperate that he just keeps being here. So,
but how lucky was he that he got to go back to Notre Dame?
Yeah,
I think that's a dream of all of ours, to go back to our hometown and to serve and be a student, but yet be a mentor again and stuff. And I've heard there's a few stories about him from when he lived in the dorm there.
Yeah, I don't know the Notre Dame world. We're blessed by many people in our diocese who, especially through the ACE program, have gone through there. I think what I've heard is that every resident house at Notre Dame has a chaplain, of Holy Cross sign. Some of them are holier more kind of contemplative arrangements. Some of them are not.
Yeah.
Some of them are your typical college dorm. I think Bishop's assignment was to the latter. Not that he participated. We're not saying that, y'all. But he had to hang with people, your average college student. Not like, little clones of himself who are like,
right.
Well, I don't know. We don't know Bishop's full history, guys. Okay. But yeah, he's just had such an eclectic variety of experiences. He's so... Yeah, I mean, like different parts of the country, different assignments, different skill sets, different affect needs, and it's all served him so well here.
It certainly has. So yeah, I wish I'd kind of known him before, but I'm glad we get to know him now. So it's good.
I cannot imagine 25 years from now what he's going to be like as the elderly statesman bishop.
Ooh, yes.
Can you imagine? Oh man, it's so great though. If he's coming to your parish, there's not a parish I've seen him at where he is not at home, because he loves people. He loves ministering on behalf of the Lord. He loves the Lord, loves people, and
absolutely
that's shown through big time in this. Well, great, guys. We are just about a week away. We're, in fact, a week away. As this podcast releases on the Thursday, we're a week away from the start of our 50th anniversary as a diocese. So the next episode will just be a special conversation between Bishop and one of our long-standing, amazing servants, Tina Easter, who recently got a major award for all of her service in the diocese. They're just going to talk about kind of the legacy, the history of these last 50 years, the stories, the people. So that is going to be a do not miss, and we'll see you then.
Thank you for tuning in today to the Gaudium et Spes podcast. If you would like to know more about our podcast, please visit our website, gaudiumetspes.net, or go to ptdiocese.org and click the button that says podcast. If you listen to the audio version from an app such as Apple Podcast, Spotify, or iHeartRadio, be sure to rate, review, and comment. If you watched us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe or leave us a comment there as well. Thank you for joining us.